This show is a proud member of the Nerdy Legion Podcast Network. Get more at nerdylegion.com. Enjoy the show.
This is Brightside Home Theater. Happy New Year, home theater nerds. Welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast, the podcast that's all about the experiences. And this week, we're talking about the best experiences from 2021. And right away, we have Jeff back. He's back from HDRreport.com. HDR/report. HD-report.
Yeah.
There we go. Got to get that dash in there, not underscore.
Some French companies own the without the dash for 20 years.
Oh, really?
I can't seem to get it from... the website looks like it's 20 or 30 years old.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I love your logo, especially now the HDR, because it's so important. And I've said that to you before. But Jeff, nice to have you back. This has been just us getting together has been a labor of love.
Absolutely. It's been like being stuck on I-95.
Yeah. I just heard about that today myself. Not a good time. Geez. But yeah. So that's why we are saying Happy New Year. You and I had planned months ago to have this out on New Year's Day. Then scheduling conflicted, and then COVID hit, and here we are. But we're getting it done. So, but awesome to have you back, buddy. You have a very special place in my heart because you are the first person, and actually the only person so far, to actually reach out to me. That's how we met. You reached out to me last year. It was like September, October, and we were talking about doing a year-end that you wanted to do a best of thing. And I was like, wow, somebody contacted me. So you always have a place here, buddy. Very excited to have you back.
The World Wide Web. It connects us all.
Exactly.
But yeah, exactly. I really appreciate you helping out with this year's best of the year in 4K Blu-ray. I forced you into the physical media rankings. But we also had Ralph Potts from AVS Forum, which was really great to have three people kind of just looking at the best, what's the best out there. Because there's so many out there now. And I think it helps viewers or readers like figure out what should they buy, like what's crap and what's not,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's fun to do. And it's like, I mean, we started on this stuff. We start talking about it in November or whatever. And then we say, we think we have our lists, but then of course you see movies that are coming out in December, and then you start going, and it was fun having Ralph in there because now you start to see what other people are thinking. And it's just fun to discuss that stuff,
Sure.
and then to put it out there. And I like how has the feedback been so far?
Pretty good. Yeah, we've had quite a few people reading the article. Not so many people commenting on what they think was the best, but that's okay.
Yeah. I saw some comments on Twitter, though, people talking about like, oh, how did you miss this one? Or they're all valid. I can't even think off the top of my head, but they were all valid. But at the same time, I've done these lists and we've done them in the past, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But it's honestly the best way to do it is what comes to mind for you, and then let the chips fall.
Right. Well, one person suggested the Batman v Superman. Reissue, but it wasn't a big enough change to really warrant a
it had like
2021.
4 scenes, maybe 4 or 5 scenes that they changed the aspect ratio on, which was great.
Yeah.
But it was really just a reissue, and that's kind of, I understand where they were coming from. It was great, and it was a great experience. So, and maybe we could talk about it here, but unfortunately, I don't have it on my list. But but yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today is the actual 4K home theater experiences, or just home theater experiences of 2021. Because as you and I talked before when we did the 4K discs, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. But the world isn't just discs, right? And
it's not. And what I think a lot of people are doing is buying the discs and getting the digital code and then reselling the discs. So they end up breaking even.
Oh, really?
I've heard that from quite a few people. Yeah.
Just to get the digital code. So now they put it on their iTunes or wherever they put it.
Yeah. But depending on the service, I mean, we'll get into it, but I think the streaming stuff is getting so close that it's really getting hard to tell. I mean, I do screen, I'm kind of really nerdy. I'll put on a disc and then I'll put on the digital and I'll compare them. I'll take, shots of that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's not much difference anymore. It's depending on of course, your internet connection and your provider.
Right.
Netflix is pretty high up there now, but Apple TV still has the best bit rates from what I've read.
Yes. I don't get into that all that nitty gritty. I literally go by my experience in my room, and I sit there and I'll like, how does this look? How does this sound? And to me, Apple TV has the best quality picture and sound over anybody else. Netflix is a very close second. They're very good, and we'll get into it with some of the stuff that I have on my list. But I had a listener this week. Funny you say that about the difference between obviously streaming and physical. And he had a point that he's been watching a lot of streaming lately, as we all have been. So Paul emailed me just the other day. I'll talk about it again on Tuesday when I get to my listener comments. But it was so pertinent to what we're talking about right now, because he said he's watching a ton of streaming, and that's all because you have all these shows and you watch streaming after streaming after streaming, and then go back and put a disc in. That's where the big difference is. That's when you'll notice, wow, okay, here's the big difference. The picture is just that much crisper, a little bit nicer, but the sound, that's when you realize like, oh, I forgot how good it can be.
Right.
But when you're doing the A/B, you're listening for little things and you're going, oh, okay, all right, that's a little punchier. And I don't think it jumps out to you as much when you do an individual scene A/B back and forth. But it's the overall intake of like, everything just seems, especially sound wise, just really, really compressed. And it really seems to be missing that bottom end, almost like they only send out like, 30 hertz and above. Right. And it's like, cause the sound feels so much more full on a disc. And the picture is just a little crisper, but you need to have that long experience of streaming and then go back and put in a disc or something that you've just watched recently and be like, oh, wow, that's a lot louder, and listen at the same volume and be like, oh boy, that's a big difference.
Right. There's so much more room for bit, the bit depth is so much deeper that you can get so much more out of it. So.
Yeah. It's amazing how, but it is, like you said, streaming is getting so good. And we're going to get into a lot of that. What else, before we get into that, what do you got big coming up in the new year for HD Report? Anything exciting? I shocked you with that. You're like, I'm all prepared with discs and stuff.
That's a good question. I'm overrun. I mean, I honestly need like some help reviewing discs. That's one thing I probably will be reaching out to see if anybody else can help me. They get these discs in, like I got Juice in today from Paramount. I'm trying to figure out all the time to like review these. So what else are we doing? Funny enough, DVD is going to be celebrating its anniversary this March.
Oh, wow. It's going to be coming up on what? What are we at? 25?
20, is it 25? Yeah, let me see.
Is it 25?
It was 15 for Blu-ray, right? 15 for Blu-ray. So 25, yeah. The original ones
97, right? 97, 96, 97 for DVD.
Yeah. So in December of, I guess it was 96. I have to make sure that my dates are correct. But anyway, the first ones were released in Japan, and the first consumer-based DVDs. And then in March, the first ones came to the U.S., which is crazy. I mean, the DVDs at the time were like so good. I mean, think about what you're comparing them with. You're comparing them with VHS, which is like a tape wavering in your player. You're comparing them with, what else can you compare them with? Laserdisc.
Yeah, and it was close. It was close. It was so close that my first guy that I knew that he owned a Laserdisc store and taught me a ton of stuff. Knew him for about 8 years until DVD came out, and he was so adamant that Laserdisc was still better. He ended up losing everything. He didn't roll with it. He didn't, and I don't know where he is now. His name was Dave. He owned a store, and I used to go there every week, sit and talk to him for hours. But I'd buy a Laserdisc a week. And then when DVD came out, he swore up and down that it wasn't good. And he's like, it wasn't the audio was too compressed. He was saying, and there were a lot of, there's still some people I've talked to online that still thinks Laserdisc is one of the better audio formats. But it was just, he just didn't want to roll with it. And he I don't know what he didn't open a DVD store. I know that. I had to start going to Suncoast and stuff and normal places to get my DVDs. And I still collected Laserdiscs as long as I could. But yeah, that was the only comparison. And it was pretty close. It's just DVD was it was cheaper for one. Laserdiscs were probably twice as much. They were about $40.
That's what I was going to say. Weren't they like $30-$40 all the time? They never
40
really
to $50 depending on the set. If you were looking at a nice box set of something, I'm not even talking like a Star Wars box set. I'm talking just a nice collector's edition was like $50, something like that. But I was dropping, probably around $35-$40 a week on a movie, and I still have them all. Don't play them, but yeah, it was close for quality. And I think everything since then has been an advancement. It's just that nobody took off with Laserdisc, really. That was such a niche thing that it enabled DVD to get a foothold. And I remember when it dropped, everybody was like, this isn't going to take off. You can't record with it. Because that's what VHS did. It's like you could have a VHS and you could record your shows at night, or you could rent a movie and watch a blockbuster movie as well. Well, DVD was just going to be more of all right, $20, $19.99, and you can just own a movie. Yeah. You can't do anything else with this machine.
But then they started were able to put, rights on the disc, so you weren't able to duplicate them as easy as VHS was pretty easy to duplicate, if I remember right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You have two machines and you back one right up into the other, and you can make your own, you can copy it. There was all sorts of stuff like that. But, for fans like us that wanted the best quality, DVD was the way to go after, it was more compact, cheaper. And, and that's what ended Laserdisc. And it was literally, in my opinion, it was a sideward step. But it was a necessary one, so to get us to where we are today.
Well, I still have my Lord of the Rings DVD collection. I won't be getting.
Oh yeah,
I won't get rid of that.
No.
I've got some cool DVD collections that I don't know. There was something about them that really changed the way I looked at home media. So, and what's insane is Netflix still rents out DVDs.
Oh yeah. Well, right? It's still a huge seller. I mean, you see the things all the time online, and it's what 70% of the market is DVD sales.
Yeah,
then it's 20% and 10%.
Yeah,
it's 20% Blu-ray and then 10%. If that, it's usually, isn't it usually around 5%?
Yeah,
for
4K is just it's probably never going to get to where Blu-ray was. Let alone DVD.
Yeah.
So
and that gets back to our conversation. What we're saying, streaming is just getting so good that it's why would you do that? Why spend the money? I just did a theater for a buddy of mine, and I'm like, don't even bother going to physical yet. He literally just added a Denon receiver and an SVS surround setup. And he had a 65-inch TV with TV speakers. That's what he was watching movies on. And this guy, he has a podcast. He talks about movies. It's more like pop culture podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He watches like something like 70 to 80 movies a year. And he was watching on a 65-inch TV with TV speakers.
Wow.
So he reached out to me and he's like, oh, let's do this. Can we up this? And I'm like, yeah. And so I set him up with that, set it all up for him. And I'm like, don't even bother. Don't even look. Don't even bother with physical media because you're coming from this. You're going to be blown away. And he was. And it's just stick with streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then down the road, if you want to advance, like he wants to maybe put in a theater someday, like a real dedicated theater and everything. I go, then maybe you go to that. But get used to streaming. And then if you want to add some physical media for some stuff that you can't get streaming, you know, you do that. But just enjoy the streaming because it's fantastic. And if you never compared it, you wouldn't even know how much you're really missing. It's not really that much.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you compare it, yeah. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, ignorance is bliss. And if you don't, I mean, you're missing a little bit, but physical's a little bit better. But you're getting a ton with streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So can't really complain there. And when you're just starting out, it's the best way to go. It's cheaper, and you can spend your money on equipment instead of on all those discs that may be obsolete someday.
Well, some of these
I have a crap load of obsolete discs.
I mean, the thing is, I still love holding something in my hands. Like you get it in the box, and you're like, or you buy it at the store. And I loved going to Best Buy and looking at the shelf and picking out stuff.
Oh,
so I'm just hoping someday. It's kind of like going to a comic book store, right? Like, it's just something about that. Something you could. Maybe I should love to join you on that one someday. I'm a huge comic book guy.
There you go. Yeah, I'd love to have you.
I mean, every week I'm in the comic store, and I'm there. I'm going to go there after we talk to you to see what the latest books are. You know.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, that's my other podcast, Brightside Chat, John.
So there's something about physical media or something to hold. Now I'm wondering what I think could happen is someday. You buy a digital movie and you might get some kind of a little box or like even like maybe it looks like a Blu-ray box and you get something in it, like postcards or a little photo book or something that's like is tangible, And I think that's a real critical part for home media. And I think that people still crave that. As you can see, you can't even buy steelbooks anymore of these new movies. Like you try to go buy the new Spider-Man movie, it's sold out,
Right.
You try to buy what's the last one that just Dune. You can't get. You got to order those things early. I ordered 2 copies. You can't get them anymore. So there's still a high demand. I don't know what that market is, but there's definitely people really want that stuff.
Yeah, and like anything else, though, it's like it is a niche thing, like you said. It's like the 4K and that the people like us that want that top quality, that want to have that physical collector's piece, if you will, like for your, entertainment rack or whatever, and be able to display it all and stuff. Because it's like trophies, right? When we were kids, you got a trophy for doing this, you got a trophy for doing that. And it's like, well, hey, Dune came out. I got a trophy. Here we go. Let me put that on my shelf. And I think they can totally take advantage of that. Just like they can take advantage of the different aspect ratios. Like if they come out with, if Dune ever comes out with an IMAX enhanced disc, double dip. I'm all for it. I mean, I don't blame them at all. They're in the business of making money, right? So you put the disc out, you have regular aspect ratio, cinematic aspect ratio, and then 6 months later or a year later at Christmas, they say, here's the IMAX enhanced version with no bar, and it's but take my money, just start throwing it at them. It's like, that's what we do. And that's the hobby.
I would buy IMAX enhanced Disney films on physical media, even though I can watch them on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I know. I would buy them in a heartbeat because it's like, it's part of my list. It's like, that's part of the experience, right? And you want to have, and the only place you can get it right now is on Disney Plus. But if it comes out in that, like you said, the higher bit rate and better, quality, I'm grabbing it. I'll grab the entire set. There's 13 movies right now. I have the entire set in 4K. Most of it's Steelbook, but hey, they released 13 movies in IMAX enhanced. I got to buy 13 more movies.
It's a must do.
Yeah. Why stop now? It's like I've spent money on dumber things.
Yeah.
but yeah, why stop now? It's what we do, and I can't wait. When the day comes, I'll do it, and then I'll compare it, and I'll put it in, and I'll watch it on Disney Plus, and I'll watch the disc, and I'll put it here, and I'll put it there. And that's what we do. That's what makes the hobby fun. So, all right. You want to get to this list?
Yeah, let's get to the list.
You want to start to have some fun about our home theater experiences of 2021?
Let's not make anybody wait any longer for this.
Any longer, yeah. It's all home theater talk. We're having fun. All right, we'll go through we'll just start talking about our, what do you call them? Our honorable mentions, if you will. Before do you have a top 10?
I don't actually have a list that I have things that I want to mention.
Okay.
So maybe
for honorable mentions, you mean? For everything.
Yeah, honorable mentions would be great. We should probably limit it because I could go on and on. But maybe if we do top 10 is going to be tough. I could throw in, like if you give me one, I might be able to throw another one back at you that you might not. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's see. If you would, anything you wouldn't put in the top 10, you go first.
Okay.
And start with honorable mentions.
You're combining everything, right? So just so the viewers know, this is the best home theater experiences.
When you sat down, what's the best time you had watching something in your home theater this year in 2021?
And I'm going to try, here's the thing. We've talked about our top 10 from the first 6 months. So I'm going to try to avoid that. But if we have to mention, there are some that we have to, we're going to have to
I don't
mention.
even know what we talked. I don't remember because I'm like, this is the year. So it's still part of the year. So if it's in there, it's in there.
Okay.
All
right.
What do you got?
Okay. My honorable mention, it would be in my top 10, but is this very slick looking copy of Akira Kurosawa's Ran.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that.
Okay.
That's a nice, that's a nice disc.
DJ, if you send me your address, I will send you a steelbook of this.
Oh, look at that. Here, let me text you right now. No.
Look how slick this is. This is so nice.
That is nice.
This is why you love steelbooks, right?
Yeah.
So I won't get so much into like what they did, but we can see a little like cool picture on the back.
Nice.
I've been waiting for them to do this for years. The color is fantastic. It's almost like, when I always say this, it's almost like HDR was invented for a movie like this.
Really?
Yeah, because Kurosawa, like this movie for him was, from what I've read, was all about color. Like color was supposed to be a real big, almost like a character in this movie. And so when they did the restoration, the colorists really did a nice job. The feuding brothers, and they each have their own color flags, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous film. This is from '86. It's not as old as something like some of the other stuff we've looked at, but really, it's a great film. It's one of his signature films. So that's my honorable mention. You got one?
Definitely. I can't wait to check that out. I am going to go with Black Widow 4K.
Ooh.
Came out in September. And I just thought, the costumes, the action, the picture on this, the way they did the settings, the different parts of the world that they went to, just really, it was just so much fun to go through. And then to have that actually show up again on IMAX Enhanced on Disney Plus and be able to experience the different scenes that way, because that one actually has variable aspect ratios. I paid for this $30, saw it in the theater. I thought my experience in my theater was actually better at the time than going to the theater. Because at that time, what was that, July, I think it was, when that came out?
Yeah.
It was, the theaters were dead. You had maybe a third of the theater, maybe, right? And to be fair, Black Widow the movie itself doesn't lend you to, I don't know if you've seen the latest Spider-Man movie, but it doesn't lend you to the applause and cheering that went on during that. There's not much in Black Widow for that. It's more of an emotional movie, to be honest. But the experience itself that I had in the theater, in my own theater, streaming it on Disney Plus, was better than going to the theater. And then when the 4K comes out and you get that bump in sound and you get that little bit extra picture and you're like, oh, wow, it was a lot of fun. And then, of course, you get the IMAX Enhanced, and now you're back to, well, the sound's a little bit less. But because you have the IMAX Enhanced and the larger picture and you got your whole screen is taken up and it looks fantastic, it was just a lot of fun. And it's like, I mean, I'm ranting on about a, honorable mention here, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was a movie that I'd been looking forward to for like over a year. We've been looking forward to that. So a lot of fun. Definitely worth checking out, and a lot of fun in your theater.
Yeah, I thought it looked great on the disc, especially. I have not seen the IMAX Enhanced version. I should see that though. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
but I like the story. The story was good. It was kind of odd seeing two sisters, but that was kind of a weird thing because it was like, who's their star? Obviously, Scarlett Johansson's the star, but they were both very good in it. But it was kind of odd.
Kind of hand in the baton, in that, and it was an emotional movie. I mean, it wasn't meant to be rah-rah. It was more of an emotional movie because you knew at the end of it, you already know her ending. So, it was, but like I said, I mean, as far as sitting in your home theater, definitely one I watched, obviously, quite a few times already. All right, what else you got?
So for honorable, do you want to do another one?
Sure.
And I won't go on and on about these, but The Witcher. Have you seen the Witcher series?
Oh, look at you!
Was I
yes.
going? Okay,
absolutely.
Was that one of your? Was that one of your picks?
I may have that later. No, that is such a good. Another listener actually commented on that. I think it was the same guy. I think it was Paul in the same email. He had said, he's like, check this out, and the surround sound on that. And I've just finished it. Literally just finished it yesterday. But it did come out in December on Netflix. Season 2.
Season 2,
that is.
Yeah.
And what a blast. Have you seen the whole season?
No, I have only seen episode 1 or 2, I think maybe 2 of this season. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some amazing Atmos in this. And I could say Atmos because it actually is Atmos, but they use the overheads for different things. For they're fighting monsters and they're like, or demons or whatever, flying around the room and they're going over you and around you. But then there's also times when characters are hearing voices in their head. They're being talked to or guided by like different other characters, right? And the way it fills the room and the conversation might be actually going on behind you because it's in your head and it was awesome. There's some stuff going on outside of like a castle and the castle's being bombarded and it's like your room is the castle. It's so much great action, and the HDR on this and it is Netflix, and it is really, really well done. There's the colors. Check out their eyes. Okay,
I know, it's insane. It's really, that's one of the things I was going to say is I don't know how they do it, but
it's all contacts. They have to all be wearing contacts. Either that or they literally go back and it's all like after the fact. They render it after the fact because their eyes are so brilliant. But what's his name? Henry Cavill. What's his character's name? Geralt? Is that something like that? I can't remember his character's name off the top of my head. But him and Yennefer, right? They're like the main characters from season 1 that are like, they're the ones that are supposed to be together. But you know how they say opposites attract? Check out their eyes. His eyes are yellow. Her eyes are purple. And those are opposite colors. They're opposite colors on the spectrum. And I was watch her eyes. His are super obvious, right?
Yeah.
But watch throughout the season in the different lighting and how great the purple in her eyes pops. It's so nice. Because there's other times when it's a little darker and Like I'm looking at your eyes right now and it's like, oh, I could see that. But in the show, it's like there'll be darker scenes and you could just see just a faint hint of purple. But then in the light, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, it really pops. But all their eyes are like that. But I just thought that was really cool that they're supposed to be like coming at each other. They're supposed to be button heads, but they love each other, blah, blah, blah. But opposites attract. And those two colors are like literally exact opposites. A primary to a secondary, they're opposite colors. Awesome.
Yeah, it's very sharp. The show is very sharp. I love the lighting in the show. It's kind of a little bit gritty. Man.
Yes.
I gotta keep watching.
The snow scenes. There's tons of snow scenes. They'll go from a warm climate shot of something like green and warm, and then they'll go to like that nice high. I love snow scenes. That's one of the things about Black Widow. They had some nice snow landscape scenes, and you have that. It's just such a high contrast scene with that bright white snow and everything, and the flakes coming down you'll see as they get to different parts in the show. But there's awesome stuff.
Okay,
awesome stuff. That's a great one.
Good. I hope I didn't steal your thunder there.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Hang on. Getting that tickle in the throat still. All right. The Underworld box set. I already owned the 4K version of the first one, and I think the last one was released on 4K as well. It's all the ones in between, but that box set is just beautiful. Like you were saying, physical media as far as that goes. But as I said in my little blurb, I'm like, Underworld to me has always been that like guilty pleasure. Like you don't want to tell a lot of people like, oh, I love, like, and it's because I love the series so much. Like I remember when it first started, I was like, I mean, as a guy, you're like, oh, Kate Beckinsale, she looks, and then you watch the movie and you're like, that was a pretty good movie. That was a fun, like horror vibe type movie. And then the second one comes out, and then the third one, and then you start to see the story play out, and you're like, this is actually a pretty good tale by the end of the entire series. But having it all in 4K now, and it's shot so high contrast with, the latex, the black, and all of that, and everything going on throughout the entire series, and the views that you get through the different characters' eyes. If you go into they'll show them attacking and you get a different blurry view and stuff, all enhanced by the 4K throughout the entire set. That's what I said in the write-up on hd-report.com. It said, I was like, it's not a guilty pleasure anymore. I highly recommend it. And I love the story, but as a box set for a home theater fan, I think it's a mistake not to own this. I think it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a big fan. Even thought about naming my daughter Celine because I love that name so much. But yeah, I mean, her character's so cool in that movie. Actually, for me, I don't know. I actually kind of feel like they got worse and they kind of went downhill for me towards the end. But actually,
really?
I kind of liked it from the start. It was a little bit more. It seemed a little more like vampire, like low budge at the beginning.
Right.
But
right.
The battles are really cool, though. Definitely, yeah. And the sounds are insane. Like especially when they're in the tunnels.
Oh yeah, and that first one, that opening scene, and they go in the tunnel, and the thing's running, and it's like going around your room, like over, like, and I mean around your room like a barrel, like from the left over your head, down to the right, and under you, and back around. It's like it's awesome, awesome. It's so much fun. But I got caught up in the love story part of it. The whole, it like Lifetime me. Like, it's like that whole story as it plays out and you find out who's who and how everything worked. And it's like, and who she really is and all that. And I got all caught up in it. It's like, like a soap opera type thing with, blood, guts, and action.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of liked it. But I do agree with you. I mean, the first ones those set the tone. And that's why I enjoyed them. But then as it goes on, I did like the story, how it, the love story part of it, or the family story part of it, I guess.
Well, I'm not embarrassed to say that. I've always liked I might be embarrassed to say I like the Twilight saga. the Twilight movies. That might be a little more embarrassing to. I really love those movies.
I saw those all at midnight. I took my daughter.
I thought they were good. I thought they were rather good.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were.
And I've probably seen them with family a couple times. They're definitely fill that niche that. Well, it's not really a niche. They're blockbusters. But anyway.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other?
Oh man. I mean, I've got a few, but I don't want to. These are just honorable mentions that I still think for the year that I just wanted to say Super 8. I think it was a really
I haven't
good
watched
film.
that in its entirety. I flipped around on it to see how it looks. I've seen the movie, but I haven't seen the new 4K in its entirety.
I think this was pretty well done. The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yep.
Pretty
Same
good.
with that. I flipped around on that. It actually does. It looks beautiful.
Let's see if I have it with me. Oh man. I'm gonna put this in honorable mention because it got hyped up for some reason for our top 10 list.
That's wicked funny. I had that too as an honorable mention. That's what I was just gonna say. Elysium 4K.
It's got some great stuff. The best thing about this film, I think, is that they tried to do as much of the special effects or visual effects on set, right? So kind of like a live action rather than doing everything green screen. And so I love that real stuff and a lot of the big miniatures and stuff that they built for this film, and that's what's really it's a $200 million film, I think, right? It wasn't. It's so there's a lot you can get out of this. Was I crazy about Matt Damon's character? Is it as good as District 9? No,
I wouldn't say it's as good as District 9 because it doesn't. It just doesn't resonate like that, but it's still, as far as like home theater experiences, it's as good as District 9 that way, right? The movie itself might not be, but as far as home theater experiences, I haven't broken that one down like I broke down District 9, but what is it, Neil Blomkamp? The way he does it, the sound, the way he utilizes the sounds throughout these movies and the bass and everything, it's like, it's part of the story, and they're so good. I love his stuff, and especially, I mean, like I said, I broke down District 9, and one of my favorites because I know one particular scene off the top of my head, but that'll always stick with me. But yeah, I haven't really broken down. I haven't broken down Elysium yet, but I definitely want to. I mean, I love those movies, and I was so excited when it came out too. It was like, it's great movies. Love what he does.
Cool, man.
But yeah, that was going to be my next one. So other than that, the only other one worth noting that isn't in my top 10 is Indiana Jones collection.
Oh, wow.
And
didn't make your top 10.
No, stuff gets bumped out when you go to home theater experiences.
That's true.
And Indiana Jones, though, it's like, we had it, obviously, and rightly so, we had it in our top 10 for discs because it is for the year. It's like, I mean, Indiana Jones 1, the entity itself is just huge. And then to have it restored the way they did and watching those scenes. And I think you and I talked about it last time when we talked, what was it, back in July? I think this was on our list back then. And maybe it was somebody else I was talking to, but it was not just the action scenes, but like I said in the first one, the library scenes, the detail in their jackets and the detail in the books in the background and all of this other stuff that normally you wouldn't be paying attention to, but now because it's done so well and the picture looks so good that you're just like, yeah, no kidding. Stuff goes boom and it sounds great and the explosions look good and the action sequences are fun, but paying attention to all those little details that are really just popping off the screen now in this entire collection is just, it's awesome.
Yeah. And what I loved about seeing those films again, the early films, is that it kind of takes you back to the theater. That's why it was in my top 10, because it's like when you experience something that good, you want to try to experience it again as close as possible at home, if that's possible. And I think with the renderings, the way they colored it and everything, and the way the way the video looks, and I think this, the sound kind of, it's pretty close to what I remember experiencing in the theater, and that's what I really love, about when they redo films like that. So anyway, yeah, that's the first one. I mean, I'm not such a fan of the sequels, but Raiders of the Lost Ark is definitely,
I think we're surpassing what we experienced in the theaters, to be honest with you, because I know in my hometown it was a tiny theater, and it didn't have I probably didn't have the surround system I have in my own. So you were just going back then. You were going to the theater to just see the movie. It wasn't. There wasn't as much in the 80s, especially like with Raiders. What was that, 84, 81? I don't remember which years Raiders dropped. But back then, it was just go to see the movie. There wasn't as much care taken to the surround sound as much as it is today. Today, it's a big deal. They advertise for it. They did a little bit back then, but they were in the infancy, literally coming off Star Wars in 77 and really promoting. And I think it really took off into the 90s when we got the DTS surround in theaters. And so you have a competition going and people are talking about it. So that's what made it kind of fun. And it brought it to the masses. But in the 80s, we just went and saw the movie and that was it. And now we're seeing these in a way I don't think we were ever able to see them before. I'm sure certain theaters had it, but not mine. And I was a kid, so it's not like my parents were traveling hours and hours to get me to the greatest theater that whoever knew, because where would you find out? There was no internet. So, what did you do? I think we're surpassing what we had.
You mean at home or in theaters?
At home and in theaters. But Indiana Jones at home has got to be better than what we experienced when we were kids, other than a giant screen.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say is some of these movies are really like IMAX. You have to experience these things on a big screen. They were really made for that. Saving Private Ryan is probably one of the best, saddest, emotionally moving movies I've ever seen, and it was because you were immersed in that giant screen. You felt like you're part of the action. You felt like you were actually in the story, and that's a little bit hard to do at home unless you have a dedicated home theater and maybe you have a projector where you can make it really big. It is a little hard to do that on a 70, even a 75. That's what I got a 75 and a 65, and sometimes it's just not the same. But now there's other things you can appreciate, right? Because the sound is so good. The texture, the color, the sharpness is so good in 4K, but still that big screen experience.
Yeah.
I just hope that never goes away. That's the thing. I just hope theaters never go away.
No, I don't think they'll go away. I think it's just going to become more streamlined towards the blockbuster. The more artsy and lower budget stuff will go right to streaming or something. You know what I mean? It kind of, economically makes sense that way. It's nothing against those lower budget films, but it's look at what Spider-Man just did. It's up to $2 billion now.
Right. Isn't that insane?
It's like, it's insane, but it's a great sign.
Yeah.
It's after everything we've been through with the pandemic and to have this happen now at a point when, for all intents and purposes, hell, I just had it. It's surging again. Yeah. Right.
And that movie is the second of all time in the U.S., right? Box office earnings. I think only Avengers Endgame is the one that everybody has to beat at this point.
Right.
Of course, they had 3 films building up to that, but I don't know. Maybe we need James Cameron to come out with the Avatar 2 to really put us back in theaters. That'll help.
I don't know if that'll do it. I think a lot of people have a lot of spite towards Cameron and
really?
Avatar. Yeah, you hear all the chatter. Like, I think people are not. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Cameron. I'm a huge fan of everything he's done for cinema. I think everything he's done for movies, the promotion wise, the pushing the envelope. He's done as much in my opinion, he's done as much for theaters as Lucas, as as Spielberg.
For sure.
But I mean technologically. I mean the stuff that he pushing, him and Stan Winston, what they've done with the Terminator series and The Abyss and all that. Like The Abyss, that was an experiment so that they could get the T-1000 going. Right. So that manipulating the water like that, they were working on that for the purpose of getting to the Terminator series. And it was like all of that special effects and stuff has all been that's what I mean. It's not just the movie making. It's the idea. And then what he does with Titanic.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
He literally funded going to the bottom of the ocean to do all of this stuff to make a movie, and it's like, but that to me is fascinating, and how much he's pushed that. That's pushing the envelope to me. That's, for art's sake. And it's amazing. So, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, no, the Avatar, that was dumb. Oh, they didn't like the first one.
But they all went to see it, though. I mean,
I know.
Well, that's the thing. It also started a whole industry that eventually died out, but the 3D TVs. But everybody, I mean, I don't know what they're trolling about, but, the guy has done amazing stuff, and I think he could bring people back to the theaters. I mean, Christopher Nolan is, definitely getting trolled also for whatever, like, his 5.1 or whatever, like audio, but like he's making movies for the big screen, right? He's not doing it for like to watch on a freaking iPhone, right?
Right.
Can you imagine? I can't even imagine watching. I can honestly say I've never watched a movie on an iPhone. Never. I couldn't do it.
Too funny. I got to bring it up. So buddy of mine, Steve George, one of my listeners, longtime listener. I reviewed Lucy a while ago, almost at the beginning. Right. And that movie is just bonkers for sound, for bass. It's just because, and the picture on it too. The HDR is fantastic. Her eyes, everything about it. But anyways, so I put my review out, and Steve's a very vocal guy, lots of followers on Twitter, great opinions. We go back and forth. And he just comments, he goes like, I'll give it a try. And he goes, I didn't like it the first time. And then he watched it again in his theater, and he's got a great home theater, dedicated theater. And he's like, that was fantastic. And he's like, the first time I watched it was on my phone.
Oh, no. Come on.
I'm like, buddy, you have a home theater. I'm like, so he just mentioned it the other day, too. He tweeted out the other day that somebody said something, I think it was The Last Duel. And they're like, somebody had mentioned that all the millennials or whatever are ruining movie going by watching these on their phone. And Steve tweeted, he's got a great sense of humor. Steve tweeted, he goes, well, as at Brightside HT knows, he goes, you don't watch a movie on your phone.
Oh my God.
Because he was guilty of it. And it was just like, it's so funny. It's just like, I mean, by the same token, my other buddy, this is back in the 90s, I told him about Pulp Fiction. I owned it on Laserdisc. I said, you got to see this movie. He goes, oh, I hated it. I was like, let's just sit down. Him and his wife came over, and the four of us sat down to watch the movie. By the end of it, he's like, that was awesome, because we watched it in surround sound on a massive 32-inch TV. But he's like, we watched it in a hotel on a crappy TV with crappy speakers, and that soundtrack, the music and that and everything, it's just so he loves it. He went out the next day, bought the soundtrack. He loves the movie. It's about the experience. And it's like, we didn't have iPhones back then, but you watched it in a hotel. Right. You're not going to get the same vibe.
I mean, there's some movies that are so good that you can, if the dialogue is so good, for example.
Yeah, but that's story-based movies.
Right. Like Reservoir Dogs. I mean, the first time I saw that film, did I tell you this before? The first time I saw Reservoir Dogs, I didn't see it. I listened to it. I was in my bedroom, and I lived with these other people, and they were playing it in the other room, and I just listened to it. And that's when I was first introduced to the brilliance of Quentin Tarantino. Was the way, like, I didn't even need to see the film, like, and it was fantastic. Yeah, so
he's another one that loves 5.1, like Nolan. He does everything in 5.1.
Yeah, well, apparently some of his stuff is going to be his older stuff is going to be coming out in 4K. So I'm really excited about that to see what they do.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction, I heard. Yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah.
But you live by an airport?
You can hear that? That was a helicopter flying over. There's a.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I could hear that. That's funny. But yeah, it's all about how you take in these experiences.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you watch it on your phone, you're like, you'll get the gist of the movie, you'll get the plot, and you'll get all that, but you're not going to get enveloped into the movie.
Yeah,
and that's what this is all about.
Watch your Emily in Paris on your phone. Let's keep the feature films on a bigger screen, at least your laptop screen.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that's like Netflix. I remember when Daredevil came out, I tell that all the time. I'm like, I watched that in my theater and I was like, it was amazing. Had an awesome 5.1 surround sound. And I'm like, most people are watching this on a laptop because it was Netflix streaming, which was fairly new at the time.
I think all those films are gonna make a resurgence. Those Marvel, the Netflix Marvel series.
Yeah.
I think all three of those are gonna end. Was it 4? Let's see how many there are.
The Netflix series?
Yeah.
It was Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Daredevil and Punisher. That's 5.
That's right. 5. Okay, I'm thinking. Okay.
So we have 5. And then they did a series. They did a short series, like a 6-episode series, The Defenders, with all of them. So that was, maybe Punisher wasn't in the Defenders. I can't remember. But yeah, I think they'll all be coming back and ending up, hopefully, in one way or the other, each character shows back up on Disney Plus in different shows.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work if Netflix is going to permanently own them because they produced it, right? So I'm not sure.
They own the show. I'm sure the shows won't end up on Netflix will own the shows, but the characters and everything and the stories will move on to Disney Plus. So they've already said that they will. I don't know if Daredevil's getting a season 4 on Disney Plus, but he's definitely going to be showing up.
Which was your favorite of that 5?
Daredevil.
Absolutely.
It's
so
Daredevil,
good.
And that season 3 of Daredevil was some of the best.
And
one was awesome, but
my least favorite was Iron Fist. But for some reason, I just remember that one the most. I remember a lot of things about it, and I don't know why that is. But
season 1 was so slow. Season 2 was pretty good of Iron Fist. I thought that was and it ended really strong. It ended Iron Fist season 2 ended really strong. That you actually were left with wanting more. So that was pretty cool. But then obviously nobody complained that nothing else came of it. But that one just didn't work out. I really like Jessica Jones, all the seasons of that. I really like that show. I thought it was different. Didn't have to be action based. Luke Cage, same thing.
Well, I like when they connected them too, right? Jessica
Yeah.
Jones and Luke, that was pretty cool.
Luke
I don't remember what
Cage.
season that was, but that was, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, Daredevil was by far my favorite one. That was
definitely,
it was awesome.
It's really well made. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Marvel had their hand in it, of course, and it was all meant to be part of the universe, but it just kind of petered out. So they just ended up doing their own thing. Something tells me that in the middle of like doing all of that with Netflix, that's when they got the idea, like, why are we doing this? And they pulled the plug with supporting it, still made the shows, upheld their contract, but that's where Disney Plus came from. And they were like, why don't we just do our own thing? And then, you know what I mean? And that's kind of why it kind of just, they let them not die out, but end.
I bet a lot of these studios are regretting how did they let Netflix get so big?
Yeah.
And there were so many other options too. It's just Netflix is like the Amazon of streaming at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think
nobody knew.
Right. But I actually think, for me anyway, I jumped to HBO Max. I mean, I think the quality, the content on that is, I enjoyed a lot more than Netflix at this point.
They have good content. Yeah. I don't think their streaming is as consistent, I should say. Their streaming, their picture and their sound is as consistent as Netflix is, and obviously as Apple TV Plus is. But they do have the better. Probably they have some of the best content.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, you want to get to the top 10?
Yeah, let's. Well, jeez.
What do you got?
This is pressure, man. I'm not going to back
myself. You want me to go first?
Yeah, we could switch it up. but I'm not going to get pushed into a hole like I did last time. I got backed into a corner with.
Uh-oh.
What was the last time I was?
What, last year?
No, the last time we did the top 10. I ended up with My Fair Lady #1.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I thought you were talking home theater, man. Theater.
Yeah, that's home theater. That's home theater. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, so you want to try going first? We'll just play it by. All
right. My number 10, I have Godzilla.
2014.
2014.
Okay.
Long overdue.
I can agree with that.
I reviewed the HD disc a while back, and that sounded really nice. And then when it came out on 4K with the Dolby Atmos, it is fantastic. And it's the HDR ups the game. It's not. I wouldn't say the HDR on it is as fantastic as, say, the newer Godzilla movies. But I think that the sound, the Atmos alone on this one is definitely worth it. And there it is. Look at that. You got your copy. But yeah, that one finally came out with the release of Godzilla versus Kong. But it came out in March of last year. So I absolutely love that. Went right back through that, and it's definitely a great uptick in sound in that. So definitely worth owning, and a great home theater experience from 2021.
All right. Let's see if you have this. I'm going to just go, to be honest,
Bring it.
I worked so hard on the top 10 discs that I'm going to mix this up a little bit. I really thought Red Notice on Netflix.
All right. I haven't seen that one yet because I'm waiting to see it with my son. In our schedules, we need that 2 hours to sit down. And I was actually going to watch it over the weekend while he was away, and I was stuck. But I was like, you know what? I said I would watch it with him, so I waited. But
yeah,
good home theater experience.
This is Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. How can you go wrong? I mean, a lot of fun. It's an action film. It's actually a film that it's templated, but it's not, you don't know what's going to happen. So it's definitely, it's not a completely original film, but it's just a lot of fun. I think the writing was really good, but the quality at home was really, really nice. It had some really good Atmos, multi-channel audio happening. The picture was extremely sharp. I don't know when they shot this film or anything, but I don't know if it was during COVID at all that they worked on the post, but it's a really good experience, and it's fun. Like if I was gonna, if somebody wanted to see it in the theater, and this is why I don't think it even released. Maybe it went to a limited run somewhere.
I think it did a limited run like a week before it was on Netflix.
I mean, I would actually go see it twice in the theater because I thought it was a lot of fun. You know, somebody like one of those occasions where, did you see Red Notice? Yeah, I saw it, but I'll go with you. See it again. It's good. It's a fun film. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad loved it. My dad, same thing. It's a fun movie. So it's like, I've heard people didn't like it, but as far as a home theater experience, I've heard great things about it. I'm really looking forward to it. So awesome. That's your number 10. Yep. Can't wait. All right. My number 9, and this is how good this list is. Nobody in 4K.
Oh, okay.
And that is, what an action movie. What a great movie, right? And that came out in June, I believe. But it was also streaming before that for most of the year. And
you mean as a purchase, like an in-home premiere?
I thought was that one on HBO Max, or was that I thought it was somewhere streaming ahead of time. I don't know. I can't remember if that was one of those early release, to streaming or something before the 4K. But the disc is fantastic. Great sound, much like John Wick. Much like the John Wick series. But yeah, absolutely love that movie. And another one like Godzilla, and like Red Notice, just sit down, enjoy, turn it up, and have a great time. Fantastic movie.
All right, my computer's crashing here, so I'm having trouble seeing my list, so I'm going to have to try to win
as long as we're still connected.
Yeah. Okay. Well, God, I had so many other honorable mentions.
Oh, geez. Go ahead. Fire them off.
Well, like Scream. Did you see that one? That's pretty
I
good.
haven't seen that one yet. I'm going to be reviewing it this year. But
this is The Green Knight. It's a very interesting film. It's got some pretty good shots. Anyway, I'm trying to find. Okay, so my computer's crashing, and my Safari over here is bugging out. But I can tell you that one that I was going to mention for sure is this show on Disney
going
Plus.
To a show.
Going to
Disney
a show.
Plus.
And this is actually could be higher on my list, but I'm like I said, I'm having trouble looking at my top list. But it's Welcome to Earth. Have you heard of this? Okay.
Wow. Here we go.
Are you
3 weeks in a row now? I had 2 weeks in a row. I had listeners tell me about episode 1.
Oh.
2 different listeners, 2 weeks in a row on the podcast wrote in telling me, highly recommending it as a home theater experience. And here we are a week later, and you're telling me like, yeah, that's what I was wondering what you were looking for. And you were like, yeah, I heard it's really good.
So Will Smith is an executive producer on it.
Okay.
And it's a National Geographic production. Okay. And it's on streaming on Disney Plus. I think it's 10 episodes. I've seen the first 5 so far. It's a gorgeous looking and gorgeous sounding film. TV series.
Yeah.
Let me see here. The premise of the show is that they find like a particular topic and they follow that topic throughout the show. So, for example, the first one was about sound, and then off the main thread of the theme of sound, then they follow these other adventurers and experts in the field. But Will Smith doesn't go to every place. He kind of follows that main story. But this is why one of the reasons why it's so good, I think, is that it's also produced by Darren Aronofsky. So, Black Swan, Pi, the director Darren Aronofsky, and you can see his influence on this. It looks great. It looks like sometimes it looks like a feature film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not offered now. It's 4K, obviously, and it's got HDR. And some of the places they go to, the color is just incredible. Like you can't believe this is reality. It's not fiction. The other thing about it is the sound. You probably watched like the Planet Earth series, all the BBCs with David Attenborough. Some of that stuff. That stuff looks amazing in 4K and HDR, right? And the sound too. But this one has a very interesting score. And it was done by Daniel Pemberton, who also did the Trial of the Chicago 7. He got an Oscar nomination for that. So the series has like sort of this dramatic feature film type of feel behind it. So it has that feel like you're watching like something's going to happen. And things do happen. Like there are some little twists in this thing that you're like, wow, it's pretty incredible. I highly recommend at least watch the first episode.
That's what everybody's saying. Yeah.
And if you're not hooked,
they said the bass is crazy too in the first episode.
Oh, yeah. It's not Atmos, but it's a really nice. No, it's a really nice mix though. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's 3 weeks in a row, and I'm like, I have to do it now, otherwise I look like an idiot.
Yeah,
like everybody's telling me about
it. And apparently the title of the show came from a famous line, Will Smith line.
From Independence Day.
Right. Yeah. Welcome to Earth.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. Awesome. All right, my number 8 is The Suicide Squad in 4K.
Okay.
And again, what a year that this is number 8, because almost any other year this would be 1, 2, 3, because this movie here was, like you said earlier, like there are certain movies that were just made for like 4K.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, the colors, this thing's like out of a comic book, the entire movie, the way it was, you have that Starro, and the colors in this movie, they're just the nighttime scenes, it's just such a great looking movie. And now let's talk about, like, it's just one of the most dynamic soundtracks of the year. Just the loud bass, the gunshot, the everything about it, the dialogue, crystal clear. But it's an amazing disc from beginning to end. And it, again, just like I said, like, you could turn all the sound down and just watch the gorgeous picture, or you close your eyes and just let the sound. I mean, it's just, from both aspects, it's awesome disc.
The color is incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of people have their TV set to sports mode or color boost or whatever they do. And man,
this would hurt you.
It
if
might.
You had it set to that.
There's so much color in this, especially from Polka Dot Man or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like there's so much amazing color in this film that I can't imagine you being like, oh, I need more color. And this is the thing that really gets me. People don't change their frame rate, and they don't change their TV mode. And that's all. The whole thing about, like, I won't even watch sports in sports mode because I don't want to see that much brightness. I'm kind of like a little bit, I guess, old school, or I just don't want to see. That's just too much. Like, I want to see the nice picture, but I don't want to see blown out lights and this and that. But you were right about this film, though. It is really like if you were to find one of your favorite comic books that has great coloring, great inking, great illustrations, and a great story, and you put it all in moving picture, that's kind of what this film is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just like ripped right out of the comic book. But the vibrancy, the sounds, the everything, it just, not that you pull sounds out of a comic book, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it's fantastic. And the movie's good too. I mean, a nice rebound from Suicide Squad. And which I enjoyed that one too. But this one here, just so much more substance to the movie itself. But then also it's just an amazing home theater experience.
So what was that number for you?
That was 8. So you're on 8.
Oh, wow. Can I steal your 8? Can I steal your 8 to be my 7?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that would mean you're going to jump to your number.
Then I'll go to my so you go to 7. That's fine.
Well, that would be my number 7 also. So you should jump to your 7, right? Does that make sense? Because I went first.
Squad?
So if that's,
I did.
If that's your number 8, that'll be my number 7.
Nope. You so far you have Red Notice at 10, Welcome to Earth at 9, and then you're putting Suicide Squad at 8.
Oh, I got 7. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting backed into a corner here, man.
Uh-oh, what do you got?
You know what? I have trouble when we come up with the same ones.
That's okay.
What do I do?
That's okay. We'll just move on to the next one.
At a loss. Okay. And
that's fine.
And one of the ones I just want to, man, I can't get to it yet, but I think we agree on one of the best shows of the year, so I have to be careful about it.
No, go ahead. I'll tell you where I have it.
No, I'm going to wait for that one. That's
okay. Go ahead.
Pop that one up further. Okay. All right. Well, some people had issue with some of these, but I want to say I think the Mad Max Anthology was actually.
Oh, okay. What did people have an issue with?
Well, there was audio problems on.
That's right.
Road Warrior or Beyond Thunder. Now I'm drawing a blank on which one it was, but I think it was the second one, which is the Road Warrior, right? So, anyway, I thought these were really well done. This is the look at the back of them. I didn't buy them singly because they were available in single editions also I believe as steelbooks.
Okay.
But watching, The Road Warrior was really fun. Fury Road's already been released to 4K.
Yeah.
And so
that was pretty good.
So was Mad Max, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, Mad Max was released by Arrow Video, I believe, probably a year ago. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Kino Lorber. That was basically a year ago that was released. I thought it was Beyond Thunderdome was never released before in 4K. So you get that in here. And I thought this was a really good little set. You've got really sharp video. You got Atmos. Yeah. So I guess the best way to look at this is pretty much like Beyond Thunderdome or The Road Warrior, because the other two were released previously to 4K.
Right.
But Mad Max Anthology, yeah, this is a little pricey for what it is. Here's the thing: you get this really skinny, slip case, and all the movies. Here's the thing. Okay, this is why it probably should have been a little lower in my rankings, but they're doubling up the discs, right? So they're sitting on top of each other, which isn't always fun because you're like, oh, is my disc going to scratch the other disc?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I wish
when they stack them like that.
Yeah, so I wish Warner Brothers would have done like a little something better with the way they presented this thing. I think I actually I'm trying to stick 3 on top. Sorry. So it kind of looks like this. So
right.
And I wish for the money I spent on it, it was like $70, I think. I wish I got something a little better put together.
Yeah.
But I really love those films, and I was so happy to see them, in a higher resolution and color corrected and everything with HDR. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's what this part's about. So
yeah,
the actual packaging, we'll let it slide for this.
Well, it is kind of expensive, and you think about it. If I paid $70, don't want to make a mistake, but 4 films, so let's say
not too bad.
I think the retail might have been
$15 each.
Yeah. So anyway,
something like that. A little more than that, $17 each or something like that. But not bad. Not horrible. Not horrible. All right. What am I on here? That was your 7. My 7. And again, another one. What a year. Zach, this is where the Snyder Cut comes in. I have it at number 7
really?
For home theater experiences. Yes. So here's why. One of the things I noticed this year, being my second year, really like, instead of just being a home theater fan and just watching movies and saying, I love that movie, but actually watching movies over and over and trying to review movies and do my thing. One of the things that I've added in to my assessment of a movie is, rewatchability, right? How many times do you draw upon that movie? And it's a factor. It's not a defining factor, but you're going to like, I start to put that in to think like, okay, how do I separate Endgame from Infinity War when at the end of the day, they're the same movie, they're one movie, right? But how do I separate that? And what I ended up doing is my original assessment was Endgame was the better movie because you had the climax at the end and everything was great. But hindsight now and a couple of years of watching these movies, Infinity War is the one I keep going back to. That's the one I keep watching over and, for different scenes, whether it's the opening scene or the scene when they break to the guy, the Guardians of the Galaxy and the music and the dun, 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 dun. It's like you're watching all of this different stuff. And then as it plays, and then the end scene, the battle on the, at Wakanda, and there's so much stuff to that movie that and as depressing as the very end of it was, it's such an entertaining movie, and there's so much to behold that I just kept finding myself gravitating more towards that than, Endgame has a fantastic ending too, but for some reason, Infinity War was more rewatchable. That gets me to, what I'm talking about with the Snyder Cut is 4 hours. It's an epic feat. Mm-hmm. And now we get back into like what I said about Cameron and how much Cameron has changed the landscape and has done so much for the movies. I think Snyder's doing the same thing, right? Whether you go to Sucker Punch or you go to Watchmen and you see the things that he's done with movies and or 300 and how he's pushed the envelope and stuff. And now taking Justice League and actually giving you his version, at the request of millions of people. It deserves to be on this list. Almost any other year probably would be a lot higher, but and the event that it was, the streaming event that it became. And then the discs came out here in America in September. I was lucky enough to get get a copy back in like May or June. I bought one from Europe and was able to watch it. But because it's so long, it's just hard to rewatch over and over. And it's, but it's a fantastic movie. I even love the tone of the movie. I think the HDR does a lot for that and where it's a darker movie. But the sound in it is fantastic. The movie itself, the chapters, that's part of the experience. It's kind of fun. The aspect ratio.
I love that. I love that.
The taller aspect ratio. I actually built for my screen. I actually built masking for the sides so that I would be able to experience it correctly. And it was a lot of fun, and it was absolutely the definition of one of the best experiences I had in my theater this year. And that would be the streaming event. Like when it dropped that day, I took the day off from work. I put my masking up and took my bathroom breaks at the appropriate times. And it was just awesome. Awesome. It's an awesome movie, an awesome event, and a great home theater experience.
Okay.
You can't argue with that.
Okay.
Huh?
What's going to happen if I have something higher than you? Like, I mean, I have a title higher, listed higher than you. Okay.
You have that listed higher, or you have?
Yes.
So where do you have it? Well, just why don't we wait and we'll get there, and you can give me your side when we get there.
Okay.
On why you have it higher. So what do you have next at number? You have number 6.
Number 6, I have. So this is one that we didn't talk so much about, but Inglourious Basterds, I really enjoyed.
I haven't even seen that. How was it? How was it in 4K?
I think it's great. There's a lot of people I don't know what everybody's so pissed off about on the internet. It's because it was upscaled. It wasn't like, rescanned. And from what they didn't say anything exactly how they restored it, I mean, the film was shot in 35 millimeters, so I know they have the negative somewhere. But in any case, just even up the upscale, I thought was great. I thought the color correction was really nice on it. I really enjoyed watching it, hearing this, Atmos sound. I thought it was good. I have it high because I didn't really talk about it too much before. And I actually watched it I watched it through probably twice, and I got something out of it like both times I watched it. So it's and I love Tarantino, so it's no wonder that it's at the top of my list.
Yeah, I love the movie. I've seen the movie. My wife and I saw it in the theater. I've seen it in my theater on Blu-ray or whatever. And but yeah, I haven't seen the 4K yet. I haven't seen what they did with that.
Sorry, I don't have the disc. I thought I had it with me, but I don't have it.
That's okay.
You can pop a little illustration to the.
There you go. Yeah.
Or this way.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I'll be interested to see what that looks like. See what it looks and sounds like. But yeah, his stuff is so good. Tarantino.
So that was my number.
That was your number 6.
Okay.
My number 6. Well, now we're going to streaming, and this is one I haven't heard a lot about since it was out. But I believe it came out in September, something like that. C season 2
Oh,
on
okay.
Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
So with Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista is in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? Have you seen season
I haven't
2?
seen the whole season 2 yet, but I saw
Oh.
all of season 1, and I'm about halfway through season 2. Is it already complete?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
that
They
was-
finished that back in, I want
Okay.
to say September, October. They
Okay.
finished it because when it came out, I actually went back through, watched all of season 1 again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched season 2, and this here is just the opening.
Yeah.
You know, the opening is amazing.
Yeah.
The picture is amazing because it's all dark,
Mm-hmm.
and but the HDR and how good that opening scene looks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sound,
Yeah.
the knocking that goes on, because that's what they do and then season 2 does the same thing. It has a different opening, but same idea. It's
Mhm.
just this movie. I mean, it's the show. I mean, obviously it's based on The Blind, so they're using sound. The sound in this show, the atmos in this show is absolutely like top notch. Like some of the best atmos out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the HDR is same thing. And I mean, we're getting into we haven't even hit the top 5 yet. This is my number 6. And I want to just rave about this one for a while because Apple TV, what they've done is it's awesome. But yeah, C with Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista, and the story is fantastic. Can't wait for you to get to the end of it. But the sights and the sounds in this entire series are like top notch.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely amazing.
Like a lot of Apple TV Plus shows, Apple originals. This is a very dark. It's a dark palette. So
Yes.
this is true with a lot of these dramatic TV series. You really can't watch these in the middle of the day with the sun coming in and blinding your screen.
No.
You can't really watch them on an iPhone, like, singing, whatever you do, wherever you're watching your iPhone. You got to sit down. You got to get your sound cranked up. You got to dim all the lights to really experience the quality of the show, because the filming is. I love the camera work in this show.
Yeah.
The only thing that's starting to annoy me is Queen Kane. That voice.
Why she bothers you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's her point, though. I mean, it's such a great character because you hate her so much.
Oh, I know. She's almost like
Wait till the
Cersei,
end.
right? But she's just like,
yeah.
From Game of Thrones. She's almost like that type of character, but not as hateful, though. Do you think? I mean, not as much as Cersei. But she has this. Oh my God! Sometimes after the
You'll
show,
get there.
Her voice is in my head.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, the way she talks in that high voice.
Oh my God.
And she addresses people, and she thinks she's always right,
Yeah.
and she's so far from right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. She's never wrong. Never.
No. But yeah. No, but that's the point of that character, though.
Yeah.
It's great. You hate her,
Yeah.
but it's great.
I think the whole edge of that show, really, as far as like script writing and the series and its evolution, is the and this is probably a little bit of a spoiler if anybody's never seen it before, is that there are people, like young people, that are actually able to see, right?
Yeah.
So the majority of society cannot see, but there's a very small fraction of people that can see. So that adds this whole twist. Like, I'm just like, well, why aren't they just like kicking everybody's ass?
Yeah.
Like, they can see. Like, go make yourself a bow and arrow, or like make a gun or something,
Right.
Or like trip them or something. Like, you have so much.
You
of an
might not have.
advantage.
You might not have gotten to the part where they actually they discussed that,
Right,
and they actually the son, Jason Momoa's quote son, who he trains to be a warrior, and they're training him, but the blind warrior is training him, and he's like,
The son is Kofun, the warrior, the trainer. I can't remember his name.
and you saw that part, but it's like
yeah.
your eyes deceive you.
Yeah.
And people take what they see for granted, whereas these people, they were born blind, and they rely on hearing. They have a heightened sense to it, and they can hear and do things that that the sighted can't really do.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
I mean, I'm not going to mess with Baba Voss no matter what weapon I'm yielding.
Oh, I love that line at the end of season 1 when he's like, "Yeah, I know what a gun is. It's the weapon of choice of a loser or something like that," or whatever he said.
He just slides under. I love his pose in the host. He's just down low and he's got this little twist, and he's always really close to the ground because that's where he gets all his leverage from, right? Or maybe maybe interestingly enough, if you watch Welcome to Earth, they talk about how the ground, you can hear sounds from the ground and vibrations too. But through the ground, there's always things happening. You've heard of sea rise before from the moon, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's actually Earthrise too. Like New York City, apparently, throughout the day, can actually rise up to 14 inches from the gravitational pull of the moon. Yeah. So, but the series also talks about how there are sounds that happen that you are not aware of because we always hear things like if we're in complete silence, we might hear like water drip because our mind is telling us that we need to hear something.
Right.
But when you go into these, if you're blind, you start hearing things that nobody else can hear, and so I think that's one of the most interesting things about the show is that, and the way Jason Momoa has portrayed this guy is that, he's to me he's grounded, he's part of the earth in the way that he can survive, and that's what I really love. But
yeah, the show itself. I mean, it's great show. Great experience, beginning to end. They're I can't even remember how many episodes it is. It was just so great, so much fun. Season 2, can't wait for season 3.
I gotta finish it. There's just not enough time in the day, is there, to do all this?
I know it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So much great content. But all right, what do you got for number 5?
Oh gosh, number 5. Okay, I'm going to put number 5. I'm going to put. Don't back me in a hole, DJ.
Yeah, I'm brutal like that.
Oh, man. Okay. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Nice.
I thought it was fantastic home theater experience. I love...
That's Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi? Is that how you're supposed to say it?
That's how they say it in the movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Us Americans, Shang.
Yeah, exactly.
Chi, bang, bang.
That is I kind of have that one. That was actually one of the many honorable mentions I have.
Mm-hmm.
I do also, I will be kind of getting to it in a little bit, but we'll see when we get there. But yes, it is a fantastic movie.
It looks really good. A lot of the movie, it opens up pretty great. And then it goes to San Francisco where the son, his name is Shang, or he names himself Sean in San Francisco because he just wants to be a normal person. There's a lot of it doesn't look like amazing. It's not, they're in the city, they have some fun, they do some different things, but it's a little bit of a, change from when they start doing battles and when he starts going back to, face his father. You saw the film, right? Because you've mentioned this before. It was one of your mentions, I think.
Honorable mentions in our top 10. Yeah.
The effects are really good. I think the sound is really good. The end battle scene is a lot of fun. I think the bigger the screen you have, the more fun that scene's going to be.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
That's why I have it coming up in a little bit, in a way. In a way, but it is. I have it actually higher ranked in a certain way, and you'll get it. You'll see when I say.
Wait, so
when I get there.
What was my number? Was that number 5 for me?
That was your number 5.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. All right, so you all set for your. So we're into the top 5 now.
Oh,
I'm about to give my top 5. My number 5, believe it or not, I had to, because this is home theater experiences. This kind of dropped a little bit compared to our disc, but I have James Bond, No Time to Die in 4K.
Ooh, wow.
At number 5.
Oh my gosh. You're
I know.
You're really throwing a wrench in the works today.
Aren't I? But see, I'm going with home theater experiences. Now, everything still stands. This is a gorgeous disc. It is a awesome movie. I loved the movie. I love the ending. I love everything. I love as we talked about earlier with the discs, I love what this means to James Bond. I love the story arc of this one particular James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
But the disc itself, or the experience itself, the picture is actually, I think I called it elegant,
mm-hmm.
because it is. It's just so beautiful. Like the movie beginning to end, it's not gimmicky.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I mean, as not gimmicky as a James Bond can be, but I mean, the picture itself is just beautiful. For his eyes, holy crap.
Right.
The blue in his eyes are just amazing, right? The textures on the different clothing, it's just awesome. The sunsets, the different landscapes, the different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a gorgeous, elegantly done disc experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound is amazing as well. It's just the explosions, and like I watched this one the first time I watched it. I didn't see it in the theater. I watched it at home, and it just doesn't have the extra oomph in the bass when you stream it. But when you get the 4K,
mm-hmm.
it's got everything,
mm-hmm.
all of that bass and all the explosion, like at the opening scene when he gets that explosion in his face, and you hear the tick, 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 and then boom, and it's like you feel it. It's
mm-hmm.
awesome disc. It made my top 5, but as far as experiences go, it had to drop down, because the ones I have above this, as far as, wow, get your popcorn ready, these are good times. But yeah, James Bond, absolutely No Time to Die 4K disc. Awesome.
Okay.
I know you have it higher.
I do. Should I just mention it when we get to that point? Okay.
Yeah, mention it when you get to. So what do you have at number 4 though?
Man,
we're into your top 4 here. So
it's brutal. It's brutal, man.
What do you? Because you still have. I mean, you've already said you have Snyder Cut higher for me, so that's got to be coming up. We have James Bond, so you only have 2 other movies to choose from.
All right, there's one that I kind of wanted to have, but maybe I'm just going to take it out. Okay.
It was going to be in the top 4, but now it's out.
Oh man,
that's great. What do we got?
Number 4, and this might be higher for you, but here's the thing. You talk about early.
I doubt it.
You talked about
maybe.
You talked about time before. You talked about how it takes so long to watch some of this stuff when you carelessly dropped Zack Snyder's Justice League down to, what was it, 8 or 9 or something, or 10?
7.
Okay.
Carelessly. I placed it gently at number 7.
So I'm going to put Apple TV's Foundation at number 4. Because
there you go.
I like
it.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Because it takes so damn long to watch, it's like I want to get through something in one night. But this series is starting with the Star Bridge, the collapse of the Star Bridge in the first episode. This series is so good, and it's got to have everybody hooked in. The sound is incredible. I'm going to mention something about this because I'm really into film, like camera and work and stuff like that. If you watch this film, especially in the interiors, there aren't many shots that are lit like we're lit right now. I have side light. I have a huge, I have sun here. I'm coming through the windows bright. You have a highlight on your. You don't see that in this film. What you're going to see in this film is dark faces and backlight. Yeah. It's a backlit film, series, which means that you have to watch this in a dark environment.
Yep.
Now, when they get outside, it's a little different. But typically in this show, like there's a lot of interior shots and the art, the design, the set design. I mean, this is like, it's just insane what they've done with this series.
Yes.
The sound is incredible. I like the characters that they've built. I don't know. What do you want to mention anything about it? It's not the same number for you, is it?
Not yet.
Oh, God. Okay.
I have it ranked higher.
Well, that's why I put it down where I did because of the.
When I get to mine, I have a lot more for you too. And we'll talk about that. We have a lot to talk about when we get to that.
Okay, so we're near it. We're hour and 40 minutes, 41:55 right now. So I was trying to move things a little bit along, but okay.
Yeah,
your turn.
Yep. So, all right. So that was your number 4. So my number 4, Godzilla versus Kong, 4K, just a juggernaut of a movie. Ending with, I believe, I don't even know if they named the city, but that neon, was that supposed to be Tokyo? I don't know. I don't know if they ever said what city that was, but just that neon in that city.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? The HDR on that, because the way it reflected off of the different monsters, right? And I'm not just talking about the bright neon lights. I'm talking about notice on the monsters, on Kong, on his fur, on Godzilla, on the side of their skin, scales, whatever you want to call it. Notice the colors. Notice the painstaking work that went into making this movie look the way it did, and then how it looks in 4K with the HDR is absolutely. I mean, it's just a blast. It's talk about a popcorn movie, but. The battle on top of the aircraft carrier, Kong and Godzilla, and the base, and leading up to that, just plowing through the water with Kong strapped to the deck, and the way the sound moved around the room, the picture, it's absolute. Like I said, it's a juggernaut.
It's a bigger.
I don't know.
It's a bigger film than Godzilla 2014, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because why? Because you have 3 Titans in the movie instead of 2. Godzilla fought Titans, but I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, we have Godzilla versus.
Mothra's in there. There's a whole bunch of different classics.
Yeah, that was.
It just seems like a bigger film. It wasn't Hong Kong. The last battle scene was in Hong Kong where Mecha Godzilla.
Was that Hong Kong where?
Yes, apparently. Okay. But the way they handled Mecha Godzilla, I think, was pretty nice too, because he definitely looked. He looked mechanical, but he also looked like realistic too, right? In a way.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, the way Godzilla looked in Kong is just insane. I mean, I don't know. How do they do it? It's just
the fur on Kong looks so soft.
Yeah.
It looks so great. And it's like the expressions on Kong's face.
Yeah.
But then like the HDR, the textures, the lighting, the lights reflecting. I love watching that and seeing the hues of like light that's supposed to be like maybe in the foreground, but now you're seeing it on their face, and it's just there's so much of that. It's for a monster movie. Like I said, I can't think of a better word than juggernaut. It's just as a home theater experience. It's unbelievable.
So that's my number 3. Just to.
Oh, okay.
So
number 3, Godzilla versus Kong. So that's pretty quick.
So that was your number 4. But the thing about the one thing I'm going to say about this movie, though, is that I think it is a great home theater experience. But man, it was not meant to be seen at home. I mean, I just feel like
no, that's meant on a big screen.
That is like IMAX all the way, dude. I mean, can you imagine seeing that film with completely immersive sound and this just, I mean, they're not big enough. Like I have a projector and I'm thinking of like, finding the biggest wall in my house just to watch it on the projector, but it's still not going to be big enough.
Right. Right. I have 110 and I sit about 10 feet away, and you're just like, you do want it bigger, but it's so great.
I think for home, I think the audio is really one of the best experience. I think I would say, I think I love Godzilla 2014, but I think Godzilla versus Kong,
Godzilla versus Kong
is, I wanted to say versus Mecha Godzilla.
Exactly.
Is probably, it's a bigger audio experience, I think, maybe you could say.
Absolutely.
The only thing about I just didn't enjoy the story as much. I felt like a lot of it was too. Yeah, I felt like it was too forced. I felt like Godzilla 2014 maybe had a more simple, elegant story. And so for stories, I defer back to the 2014 Godzilla. But anyway.
But as far as home theater experiences go,
we're talking home theater.
This is, again, this is my number 4. So, I mean, again, almost any other year, you'd be like, this was such a great year for home theater.
It turned out to be great.
Absolutely was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely was.
So that's my number 3. So
that's your number 3.
Yep.
So then I'll move to my number 3, which brings us to HBO Max and Dune, which that's how I experienced Dune on HBO. I didn't get to the theater to see it. I do agree it should be experienced in IMAX and a theater, but the nearest theater to me is now, it's almost 2 hours away to see it in IMAX, because the nearest one to me is about almost an hour away, and that's closed because of COVID. So I'm not able to even see it in IMAX, and the only place I could see it is my local showcase, which is a nice theater. It has Atmos and everything. But it's not better than mine. It's like, it's a bigger screen, but it's not IMAX. It's the same aspect ratio. So in my theater, the HBO Max of Dune, and I cannot wait for the Dune disc that comes out later next week. But in the HBO Max version of this was really, really nice. My son and I watched this, and we were kind of blown away by it. The picture was amazing. The sound for streaming was amazing. And part of that has to do with the story too. You're just so sucked into it. And as far as one of my favorite experiences, that's why it's in the top 3, because it was an experience to behold this movie in my theater with my son and just be like, I can't wait for part 2, because they open it up with part 1. You're like, all right, there's going to be a part 2, I guess. but I mean, it is an amazing experience. I'm pretty sure Dune the disc will be in my top 10 for next year. But as far as home theater experiences of 2021, sitting down and watching this on HBO Max was definitely one of my top 3 experiences of the year.
My dog is facing
That's
me
okay.
right now. I have 2 Great Danes, and she's literally like over my head right now.
What are you doing?
Okay. Man, this is tricky.
You got 2 left.
I got backed into the corner. So,
you only have 2 left, and you haven't done the 2 that.
Can I do a tie? Because I backed myself into a corner here.
You could do whatever you want, Jeff.
Okay. I knew I was going to do this because I didn't have I juggled the list as we're going, and I just
What'd you do? You forgot something?
I did this to you the last time also, didn't I? Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's all fun.
Yeah, it's all fun. Okay, so I'm going to give you
hear my number 2.
I'm going to give you my number 2s, and it's going to be a tie. And I don't know why.
All right. Well, what are they? And I'll make it up for you.
Because I pull one into the list that I shouldn't have. So my number 2, man, can I do this?
You better. What do we got?
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna put a tie between Dune, which
okay. On HBO Max. Okay. Yep.
No, in the theater.
Well, that's not a home theater experience.
No, in the theater. No, I saw Dune at home. Well, I saw it in the theater first, and then I had to watch it at home too. And I completely agree. It's probably, I love sci-fi. So I've got that way up there. That's my dog.
No. I figured that.
I have 2 Great Danes in there. Yeah.
They're great.
Shush. Yeah, I've got Dune, which I think is, like I said, I saw it in a theater. Very few people wear a mask, the whole thing. I just loved it. Visually, it's an incredible looking film, incredible sound. The Thratoropters, or whatever you call them, those grasshopper looking vehicles are just incredible at home, and because at home they're spinning around your room when you listen to it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Okay, and then I tied that. I'm going to tie that with Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh, okay. Snyder Cut comes in here, huh?
It was supposed to be number 1, 2, 3, and I screwed these three up. But anyway, you talked about it a little bit. You talked about it already, but I think the fact that it's 4 hours is what I actually love, because I can go watch an hour of it every night.
Right.
4 nights in a row and not be stressed with like having to watch it all in a row. And I just love the different format, the different aspect ratios. I love the drama of it all. We talked about this before, and I just love how it almost reads like a newspaper to me. Like you got the front page with like several stories, but then you got to dive deeper into the newspaper to find other stories, to continue the stories. And it looks so good. There's so much color, great color correction in the shadow areas, in the darker areas, the low end, really crisp stuff. And the fact that they also released it as Justice is Gray in black and white is just, for me, it's just another plus. Like I could watch that in black and white all day. I think it's one of the better black and whites. I think it's better than Logan.
Really? See, I like Logan better. I love Logan in
black and white. Did you?
Yeah, I loved it.
I liked it. I liked the contrast ratio a little bit more in Justice is Gray. I thought.
See, I agree with you that I think the contrast ratio is higher in Justice is Gray, which that's what I don't like as much.
Okay.
I feel like it goes too dark at times, so you lose some of that detail that you do get with Logan. Logan looks so good in black and white, and the highlights are, for me, Logan is like, it's about the highlights and how like they look so good, and how that comes back down into the nice detail of the darker shadowy areas. But you're right. In Justice is Gray, the entire movie, watching the regular movie, even just think about your memory of it in not the Justice is Gray, but the color version. It's almost a monochromatic, almost down to that, the way they shot it. It's such a low light shot that the colors are kind of subdued to it, so that dropping to that Justice is Gray version, everything just gets, I think the blacks get a little bit darker, but I just felt like you lost some of the detail in there in the Justice is Gray compared to Logan, anyways.
Well, Logan Noir, I thought it looked a little muddy for me.
Really?
I appreciate what your points on it, though. I just thought it wasn't really meant to be, I don't think, filmed in black and white, although...
No, it actually was.
Oh, it was meant to be filmed in black and white?
Yeah. He when he was making it, they lit that for black, like if you were shooting a black and white film.
Okay.
And when you watch it, like I watched it in color, black and white, and then went back to color when I reviewed it for the podcast. And now when I go back to the color, I think that looks muddied. I think the color actually takes away from your perception of detail because you're so infatuated with the colors, right? Similar to what we were talking about hearing and sighted and stuff. Well, actually having color there actually takes your attention away from some of that beautiful detail that really, no pun intended, but really shines in the Logan Noir. And that's where I think that Logan Noir has a little bit more nuance to it, whereas the Snyder Cut in black and white is just, and it's an artistical choice too, because that's what Snyder's going for. He's going for that punch, right? And I just felt like in Justice's Gray is just like, all right, we're going to take all the color out of this, and it's literally, this is black and white, good versus evil. And I think that's what he was going for. And I think visually it's stunning, but I didn't prefer it as much as I preferred the detail that you get out of Logan Noir.
Okay.
So, but I see exactly what you're saying, because I watched them both. I watched Justice's Gray, and I thought it looked fantastic. I was hoping for more like Logan Noir, but it's I just think that's what Snyder was going for.
Where does Mad Max Fury Road fall in there for you?
I think it's closer to Logan Noir. I think it looks good, but I'm not 100% sure that they actually shot that with that intention. That to me looks more like they shot the movie and then wanted to do a black and white version. Where I really do feel like Logan Noir, and I think he even says it in the extras or in the commentary, that he shot it with the intention of being black and white. Because I think he originally wanted to film Logan in black and white, and they wouldn't let him. So that's why, but he shot it with that intention of putting that out on the disc. Whereas I think, and I do think Snyder was doing the same thing. I think Snyder wanted to shoot this in black and white at first. And
Wasn't Fury Road though shot also in black and white? Like I'm
not sure on that one. I'm not 100% sure.
I think that he wanted to. I think they viewed it in black and white when they were filming it. But the studios don't want to release a black and white film because they can't make any money on it.
Yeah, it's such an artistic thing, but it looks so good, and it does. And you're right. Justice's Gray looks fantastic in black and white. It's a great way to experience the movie. But I felt like Logan Noir was just a little bit better. But to your point of like, I like your point of it's in chapters and you can sit down and watch it at night and felt like I did a podcast just on the first part and then I'll do one on the second part. So you can break it up, and that is nice.
Yeah.
But just to watch it as like beginning to, there's so many great things. I mean, I love for people to argue with us on our choices because that's how much great stuff there was.
Right. We could have a whole show about black and white versus color,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
All day long, I'm taking Steppenwolf from black and white over color.
Yeah. I mean, especially, the new version.
He looks so badass.
Yeah, he did. He did. The way it shimmered. That one part there, that's where you can kind of get into, because it's so well lit too. That one particular scene. Especially when they get outside.
Yeah. One show, if you like, one movie that looks really good in black and white is, have you seen Passing yet?
No.
I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's from a book about a black woman who passes for white. She's light skinned, so she can pass for white, and so she gets into these different areas of society, like
right.
I think it's like takes place in the 30s.
Oh wow!
But it's shot in black and white.
Right.
And it's really beautiful. You should see it. I think it's on Amazon Prime, or could be wrong, but I think so.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
All
right.
Where are we?
I'm on my number 2, and this one here kind of goes along with your number 2 here, where you had kind of a tie. Well, I guess I kind of have a tie as well at number 2, because my number 2, and I have it written out, and it came out on November 12th, IMAX Enhanced on Disney+. That's it. Okay. IMAX Enhanced on Disney+.
Wow.
And that, to me, that is a definite top 5, obviously top 3. It's my top 2 home theater experience of 2021, because what they did there is they made you go back and have the ability and want to check out 13 Marvel movies, which you've seen how many times? We're all fans. We have Disney Plus. I own all the movies. How many times have I seen these movies? And I had to go back and watch these movies, right? And now, for the first time, I was able to take them in IMAX Enhanced. And this goes back to, I remember when Infinity War was coming out and they announced IMAX Enhanced in March. And I was like, yes, because I'd already heard Infinity War was being filmed in IMAX. And I said then that I was like, oh, hopefully we'll get a disc version in IMAX or whatever. They're going to do something like this. When I heard about IMAX Enhanced, and here we are. I didn't know it was going to come to us through streaming, but you had Infinity War and Endgame fully in IMAX, and then Shang-Chi, when that dropped, I think that dropped that day as well. That's fully IMAX Enhanced.
That was the same exact day. Yep, you're right.
Yep. So from what you're saying, like you had Shang-Chi back at number 5, and you're talking about those end battle scenes. I'm like, yes, that all enhanced by IMAX Enhanced in the home. And I did my Thanksgiving podcast with the guys from HT Guys, the guys from AV Rant, and Ara from HT Guys. He watched some IMAX Enhanced stuff, and he was talking about it, and he was like, I think the sound might be better, but I'm not sure, because you're so taken aback by, wow, look at that picture, because you are used to the black bars at the top and the bottom watching these movies. So when you take those away, it goes, what? It opens up.
Right.
It just to say it enhances your enhancement of this movie, all the stuff. It's called IMAX Enhanced, but it's like that to me, and I said it in the podcast, and the guys made fun of me to the point that even Braden from HT Guys, he made a joke just last week on his podcast, like it's a game changer, because I called it a game changer. And they kind of pushed back, and they're like, well, maybe not now, but maybe someday it will be. I'm like, well, that's the point of a game changer. It changed it, whether it's now or later. But I think us getting IMAX Enhanced and supposed to be getting DTSX streaming eventually on Disney Plus, it just took you back. I mean, you heard about that and you ran down. I wanted to get into my theater and watch it. And literally, it actually dropped a few days earlier. People didn't know it. You heard it was coming on the 12th, but then you saw her on Twitter, and I literally ran down into my theater so I could do this.
So what's the first one that you watched in IMAX?
Infinity War. Opening scene of Infinity War. Because of that scene when Thanos is walking on the deck of the ship.
Oh,
and he's got Thor's head, and you got Loki, but checking out that background and checking out the detail there, checking out, and I did the ABs all back and forth because you can do that on Disney Plus. You just pause the movie, go back, start it again in the regular version, and you'll get the bars, right? And then you pause it, go back, change to IMAX Enhanced, and the bars go away. So like, it's literally like the bars are going away. There's picture behind those bars, and now you're getting it, and it's just fantastic. The fight with the Hulk, Thanos and the Hulk fighting at the beginning there, and you could see the uppercuts, you could see the moves, because everything is just that much grander, and you have the like I said, the detail in the background and everything. It's just fantastic. One of my other favorite scenes is in Black Panther. Opening of Black Panther is full screen, but then they go into the story part, and we get to the part where T'Challa is coming back to Wakanda for the first time, and Chadwick Boseman's sitting there, and he says in the ship, they got a close-up of his face, and he goes, "This never gets old." And then the camera goes behind the ship, and it's like going to fly into the trees, but that's the mirage. Well, instead of just flipping the scene and going to IMAX Enhanced, it gradually opens up like a gate. And I just check that out. Go on there, and you'll see the bars slowly move away. And the first time I watched it, it just looks fantastic, and you don't notice it because you're just like, oh, now we're in IMAX Enhanced. I backed it up to see how they did it, and it's not a jump cut. It's a nice gradual opening, like you're flying into the trees, and you're just getting a grander picture. And it's little details like that. It's just that to me, and like how, that is an absolute payoff of a home theater experience this year. And I mean, that's why it's my number 2.
That's great. I'm surprised you don't have that number 1 then. But I
could talk even longer about my number 1, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about IMAX makes me want to go back and watch Captain America in IMAX Enhanced. That might be sort of cool. Civil War.
I don't know if that one's on there.
Civil War.
Oh, Civil War is.
Yeah,
Yes. Absolutely. Those battle scenes.
And also I watched Guardians of the Galaxy too, which looks really good in IMAX Enhanced. But I jumped right to Endgame. That was my first one. Well, actually, did I watch Shang-Chi? I think I might have Shang-Chi. I may have watched that first. But Endgame was one of the first ones I started comparing, doing the A/B test to see like, oh, how much more are you gaining? You actually gained so much from this IMAX Enhanced mode. It's just incredible.
Because it doesn't change the picture. Like the character that's on the screen, like there was one, I tweeted out a picture, they showed Thor and it's at the beginning of Infinity War and the top of his head is cut off. And then the aspect or the perspective, everything stays exactly the same. And then the bars just are gone. So now you see the top of his head. It's not like he gets smaller or whatever. They don't zoom in or anything.
Yeah.
It's literally, they just take the bars away and there's actual picture up there.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
They actually talked about that in March before Infinity War came out. They were showing clips and they're like, this is what you get in IMAX. And they showed it and they had it without the black bars. And then they showed the scene with the black bars when you see CinemaScope, and they're like, see it in IMAX. And then they talked about IMAX Enhanced coming out, and I was like, oh, hopefully we'll get that. Because we've all known about that for a while if you're in home theater. But to actually get it now on Disney Plus is just awesome.
That's something nobody else has, right? Too. That's good for Disney Plus because
as of today, nobody else. Yeah. I've heard rumors that IMAX is trying to get agreements with other people as well for their content. I know Sony's big into IMAX Enhanced, so hopefully their stuff will show up somewhere. Sony stuff doesn't have a streaming service per se.
Right.
Which is a shame because they have fantastic movies. Well done too. So it would be great if they could get IMAX Enhanced stuff from them. But yeah, they're the only ones as of right now. So awesome. That's why it's my number 2.
Wow, that's amazing. Ant-Man and the Wasp should look really good. I didn't see that. I haven't seen that one yet. But think about how big Ant-Man is, right? It seems like he'd fit perfectly. In
Captain
IMAX.
Marvel. Captain Marvel was awesome.
Oh, you saw it? Yeah.
Yep. IMAX Enhanced.
Is that partial or is it the whole film?
Partial.
Okay.
The only 3 that are full are the Endgame, Infinity War, and Shang-Chi. All the other ones are variable. And I actually enjoy the variable. It kind of adds a little bit, like Dark Knight did it a long time ago. But it adds a little bit more to the movie. Like when it opens up, you're like, yay, and it kind of gets you that a little bit more of immersion. Like it's almost like you moved yourself closer to the screen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so you get to a part of a movie, even if you're not with IMAX Enhanced, but something's interesting in a movie, you might lean into the screen and be like, ooh, check this out. Well, now it's doing it for you. You're like, whoa, wow, watch this. It's pretty cool.
Great.
And we're getting that at home. Streaming.
Well, you really changed things up with this one. I'm proud of you for not being.
Thank you. You raised me well, Jeff.
Such a stickler to the 10,
Yeah.
Let's see.
So, all right. What do you have for your number 1?
Okay.
And we'll get to my number 1.
Well, we already talked about it, but I think this film to me is such a juggernaut in the industry that.
There you go.
You had to. Yeah. I mean, I think.
Yeah. No Time to Die. Had to get there. I mean, I knew that's what was coming next.
Yeah. And this is the really nice looking Steelbook edition that will go next to my Spectra Steelbook. And yeah, I mean, I think the thing about it is it's such a big film and I couldn't drop it any lower. It's really well made. I think there was so much emotion in this film too because of
it's literally I think it's the only one in my top 10 here that you would literally call a film.
Yeah.
Maybe Dune. Maybe not. But
what do you mean by that?
This one is actually like a film. Like it's actually a piece of art. It's actually like cinematic film. Like most of my other ones are all like action. You're not thinking like this is like, I think James Bond, No Time to Die. It's like I said, it's elegant. It's a film.
Yeah.
It's like you can actually call it that and be like, but it has the action and it has the great picture, but it's just so well done. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. No, I think what I love about it is that it's got like soul in a way. It's not the green screen magic. I mean, yeah, they use some green screen, but like, they're using, I don't know, do they use some? Trying to remember. Most of it anyway is filmed on site, and so all the stunts and everything are done. I mean, obviously they pull, if they have safety wires, they edit those out later, but this is all done, in these cities, like in real life. And I just think that I'm kind of a purist in terms of that, and like sort of like Nolan or whatever. Like, I think that I like how it's real. Whereas if you go into like Shang-Chi,
practical effects,
Shang-Chi is like a mix of reality and like comic books, like fairyland. Dune is sci-fi. So you're already, you're going to be in a sci-fi fantasy space or whatever. Whereas like No Time to Die is just, you're in there, you're in the trenches with Bond in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think with the sound and the way it was shot and the color palette, and I think it looked great, sounded great. I can't drop it to anything lower because it's the biggest film of the year. I don't think you can compare,
Yeah. It's, I mean, like I said, I had it at 5, but still, I mean, think of the ones I've said since then and how big those movies, we could try to argue, but I mean, I can't argue with you that it's not a number 1.
Now, like what's bigger than Bond right now is probably Spider-Man, right? But
in the actual theater, it's the biggest movie in the world. It was the biggest movie in the world in 2021.
Yeah,
and in 2020.
And just for your listeners to know, like DJ did actually help us rank No Time to Die as number 1 in 4K discs.
In 4K discs, I put it at. Did I have it at number 1? But I think I might have had it at number 1.
You may have
disc.
Yeah.
We
kind of had to like find.
But it was a combination of I think our top 3 was pretty close. We all had pretty close to that. But yeah, it's No Time to Die on disc. Yeah, it's absolutely. I would say as far as discs go, yes, that would be number 1. That's why I would put it there. But then when you get into the actual experience, it's like, I mean, for me, that's why I have it at 5 is because like beginning to end Godzilla versus Kong, that experience is just, that to me is amazing. It's a roller coaster ride, right? No Time to Die is a ride in a Porsche, which is an amazing experience, right? I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
I mean,
but a roller coaster ride is a blast. It's like,
well, how about the scene where they're in the Aston Martin and they're surrounded
at the beginning? Yeah. And he's just sitting there calmly and she's like panicking and they keep shooting at the window and the sound, the way it hits off of that window. And I love when they not pan, but the camera goes to looking at her in the foreground. He's in the background of the car, right? He's further away, which means the window is behind you. So she's like, James. And then all you hear right over I believe it's your right shoulder, you hear the dum, dum, and the bullets being like just breaking the glass little
That's
bit
when
more.
Cyclops gets really close to them with like whatever gun he has. And he's like,
like a shotgun
he's
or something.
Really trying to like get through the glass, which eventually he may have gotten through the glass if they didn't take off. But I think Bond was just waiting for the last moment just to piss off,
exactly. And it's so great. And that's one of the scenes where I said his eyes, because they were so full, and he just looked at her, and you were like, "No, look at those eyes, Jesus, the blue."
But how about when they're shooting and the sound is going around in your speakers, but then they cut to the interior shot and you hear it's more of like a clink, like it's a different sound. So
but it's going on all around you, like you're in the car.
Right, so it's
like you're that boom, 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 all over you.
I love that. It's probably one of the biggest tricks ever, right? But in film and editing is when you switch the sound from being exterior to interior. So you're you're actually experiencing what they're experiencing. I think I don't know.
And the different sounds, how the tones change when you go inside something.
Yeah.
So you get to experience, and then when it actually accentuates each side, right? So you go into the car, and now you take out those high pitched sounds, and all you're hearing is the boom, 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 boom. And you're like, so you get focused on that for a second. Then they jump outside the car, and you get the full, spectrum of sound, and you're like, bang, 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 bang. And you're like, whoa, no. And then you go back inside the car and get the boom, boom, boom. And it's just that in itself is a great experience, just to go back and forth with those sounds. I love when they do stuff like that. Awesome. All right. Maybe it's number one.
We go on a lot for all night about No Time to Die.
All right. You ready for my number one?
No.
Yeah. Well, we already started talking about it. It's the one that you mentioned. Your number 4. I have Foundation from Apple TV Plus at number 1, because a lot of like what you were saying, and I'd love to elaborate more on, for you to elaborate more on that, and the way this show was lit, and let's talk about the sound first, and then we'll get to the picture, because to me the picture is what blows this away. But the sound, it does have great atmos. It has, between crystal clear dialogue, which you need in this show, because I was just riveted from beginning to end on this. And the dialogue is crystal clear, but has great surround sound engagement. It has great bass. It has everything you would want in the sound of a sci-fi show. Every episode was like a cinematic event, right? And that's what made Foundation. That's why, even you had it at number 4. It was in your top 5 for the year. And like you said, you took the time into, maybe it would have been higher if it was just a movie or something, but this rivaled Dune, right? This came out in September. Dune dropped, I believe, in October or something like that. And, they do rival each other in story and effects and stuff. They have the same kind of settings almost. I don't know. Did you follow along with the podcast? There's an Apple TV podcast, Foundation podcast.
I heard a little bit of it, yeah, and
loved it.
It was talking about the book series and how
it dropped weekly along with the shows, so it's spoiler, filled. So you have to have seen the episode. But they go into, and was David Goyer. He's one of he's in every podcast, and they get into how they deviated from the books, why they deviated from the books. The first podcast, he tells the story on like him and his father like gave him the books, and he had a very tumultuous relationship with his father, and he didn't read them for a long time.
Until he was like 30 or something, right? Or something.
Yeah. Like that? And then when his father died, he was on his deathbed. I highly recommend listening to at least the first podcast, but his father asked him on his deathbed, did you ever read the books?
Yeah, right.
And he was like, yeah, I did. And that's why he wanted to make the show and make the movie and make it as well as he could, to the interpretation that he could do. And it is the show itself, but getting to the picture, this show was the show that got me to the point where I needed to up my HDR game in my theater.
Oh, really?
I couldn't. I was so enthralled with the show, and I loved it. And everything you were describing earlier when you were talking about it, and how it's all backlit and that it's dark. It's this. Well, with my projector and watching it on Apple TV, it's like it was just crushing some of those darker scenes. The blacks were being crushed. And I went all different routes to try and improve the HDR on mine, because like I have a Panasonic 820 for discs, so I'm able to set that to be able to give me a better picture through my projector, because projectors can't render HDR the way, say, an OLED can, right? So you have to dumb that down. Well, along the lines of this, that the guy that does my calibrations, he's been not trying, but he recommended even months earlier for me to get a Lumigen. And and he's like, you should do this because what it does, and he explained it all to me, and I'm not smart enough to do that. My listeners know I love this thing because what it did for me is I basically can do what an OLED can do with my projector. It doesn't go as bright, but I'm getting everything in between. I'm getting my brightest bright is my brightest bright, my darkest dark is my darkest dark, and I'm getting everything in between because that's what the Lumigen does. It just takes it all, and it like my projector shuts the HDR off, and he came in and he calibrated that, and now the Lumigen does all the HDR work for you.
Wow.
And it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And this is the show that pushed me to that point, that pushed me to get to the Lumigen, because I'm like, I need to see this. And I'm not kidding you that when my buddy came over and he calibrated it, installed the Lumigen, put everything, we watched a bunch of scenes, and the discs look great and they look fantastic. Honestly, I could say it was a modest improvement, but where this thing shines is that now I can go to a streaming service. I can go to anything, and it just makes it look great. And he goes, show me what you were having problems with. And I put on this scene on Foundation, and it's in episode 4, where, who's the robot woman there? You know who I'm talking about, the blonde. She takes care of the Brother Day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Brother Dawn, Brother Dusk. She's the one that takes care of him. Well, anyways, there's this scene, and she's in front of like this dark lit hallway that when I watched it before, the background was all crushed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there, but it was just all like a little bit of pixelated and stuff because that's what my projector could do. And when I put that scene on, I looked at him. I'm like, Jim, I'm getting a tear in my eye. This is amazing. I'm like, there's actually layers to the hallway behind her. Mm-hmm. It's scalloped. And I was like, I couldn't see that before.
Wow.
And what was funny is the basis of, and I've never said this before on the podcast, the basis of Foundation, right? Of what's the main character name?
Harry Seldon.
Harry Seldon.
Yeah.
It's all about math, right? The basis of a Lumigen, when you read it, they said it can't do what, and he's like, no, it's just math. And so Jim Pearsons, I think, is who invented the Lumigen, and he was trying to do something like what the Farouges did, the video processors. And he's like, you can do that for HDR. He goes, it's just math. You just got to figure out the math. Huh. And I'm like, when Jim, my buddy Jim told me to look into this, and I'm looking into it, I'm doing my research and stuff, right? And I'm like, are you effing shitting me? I'm like, I'm watching a show that's all about math. And then it's like the Lumigen, all this stuff, it's just based in math. And I was just like, ah. And I'm like, I hadn't even seen it yet. And I'm just like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me see. And then when he installed it, and I'm like, well, the math is working fantastic.
So it doesn't depend on either Dolby Vision or HDR10. It's creating
its own maps on its own.
Okay.
Yeah. It basically, so like Dolby Vision is a way to, for the display and the media to interpret HDR, right? And Dolby Vision's probably the best version of that, or HDR10 plus, wherever. But they can all do the same thing, HDR10 plus and Dolby Vision. It's just whichever they do. Well, in this, the Lumigen just ignores all of that. It takes each frame and analyzes it and gives you the best possible version for your particular setup. So like if you have like an OLED, you don't even need one, because you don't need to compress and dumb down or what. And that's what's nice about the Lumigen is it doesn't dumb down. What the Panasonic does is it actually dumbs down the image. It crops off the stuff it can't handle. This doesn't do that. You don't lose anything. You get it all, but it's displayed in a way that your projector can handle. So it does all the hard work, and then your projector my brights are brighter, my darks are darker. It's amazing. And my son loves it for video games. He's like, I didn't even tell him it got installed. He's like, what happened? It looks awesome. And I mean, you can't get a better A/B test right there than him just being like, what the heck?
Your son plays video games on your 110-inch projector?
Yeah. Yeah. And we only have a PS4. We don't have a 5 yet.
Is there a little bit of lag there?
No. The Sony's actually pretty good.
Really?
He has no problem. He's not competitive. I'm sure there's lag if you were going to be competitive.
Yeah.
But he loves it. And with the surround sound, when you're playing first person shooters, somebody sneaking up on your left, you can hear it and stuff. He absolutely loves it. He plays with his friends all the time.
Wow. I didn't think the response rate would be playable that big.
Yeah. I'm sure if you were trying to be competitive in the world of video games.
Yeah.
But as far as an experience,
if you're doing multiplayer, maybe that's not the best idea, right? You want a smaller.
No, that's what he does.
Wow.
That's what he does. Yeah.
But if he's not competitive,
he loves it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But Foundation, Apple TV Plus. I mean, everything that you were describing, the way it's shot, the picture, the HDR for this, and what Apple TV did there, it's an absolute. It's my best experience of 2021, and will be for a while. I'll be talking about that for a while. I'm like, because how it advanced me and educated me.
Is that about 10 hours of content?
Something
right?
like
It's
that.
like 10 episodes, so roughly an hour a piece. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to watch. It's
a lot to watch, but it's definitely worth taking in.
Yeah,
and like I said, each episode's like a cinematic experience.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Loved it. But that was my experience with it. I mean, I know I'm getting a lot of feedback, pushback on the Lumagen because there's more than one way to skin a cat. I get it, but what that did for me, it's amazing.
Well, I imagine in 2022, I think Dune's going to be right up there at the top of the list. I think Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else is big in the theaters.
You know what another one could be at the top of the list is
Matrix?
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness.
The new Doctor Strange?
Yes.
The Matrix.
That's coming out The Matrix will be coming out on disc.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. I streamed that. I really enjoyed that movie.
See, I couldn't
Did you see it?
I refuse to stream. I can't do it. And I've been wanting to go to the theaters, but just haven't had a chance. I might maybe see it this weekend, but I can't do The Matrix at home.
Oh, it was really good.
Our purist, I got to see it on big screen first.
See, I used to be that way. Then the pandemic hit, and I was actually, my first movie was Bloodshot, and that was the last movie I saw before they closed the theaters. Yeah, so they closed the theater. My son and I had already bought our tickets. It was a Tuesday, and I'd already seen it on opening day, which was Thursday. My son wanted to see it, so I bought tickets. Went on Tuesday. We had tickets to the 8:00 show, but the theater was closing that night.
Wow.
And they closed at 7, but they let you in for that final show because you had them.
Wow.
But then they dropped it on the following week.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time you were able to see a movie in the theater and then be able to see it that soon at home. And I bought it multiple times. I bought it on all different platforms to try and get Atmos, to try and get this. And my buddy John on my other podcast jokes because I mean, it's not the best movie in the world, but because of home theater, I probably paid to see that movie and purchased the movie itself maybe 8 times inside of like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because I bought it off of iTunes. I bought it off of, what's the other one that they have?
Well, was it through a provider or something? Or
no, it was
Voodoo?
What's the other one? Voodoo.
Yeah.
I bought it off of Voodoo, and you could buy it. You could buy the digital copy, and then they would send you the disc when it dropped. So I bought it there that way, and that one actually came with Atmos streaming. iTunes didn't. So I had the iTunes version. I had the Voodoo version. I saw it in the theaters. Then I bought the disc, and oh man, so many times.
Vin Diesel would be proud of you.
Yeah. But it was for that experience of being able, like, you know what? And that's when I found out. I'm like, what I get at my local theater, not an IMAX, but my local theater that I can get to, it's better in mine.
Okay.
It's better. Yeah. Except for like Spider-Man, No Way Home, you can't duplicate that experience.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
With the cheering and but that's going to the theater.
Yeah.
So, but we should do that one. I know it's a home theater podcast, but you and I should do that one sometime. Our best theater experience.
There you go.
That would be
fun. I've had a great time during the COVID because I've just been the only one in the theater sitting in the director's, center. They say like you're supposed to go center of where the screen would fall. So that if the screen would fall, you'd go in the middle of that vertically and horizontally. Anyway, I've been able to see some great films, all kinds of films.
Yeah.
With barely anybody in the theater, and
yeah. I've been going all along too. I just found that at home, my experience is actually like sight and sound is actually better than going to the theater.
Is it Lowe's? I think that's actually selling theater popcorn or something. They have this marketing campaign because they know more people are experiencing it home, and Lowe's is like, well, how do we make money? We're basically going to close down, so we're going to start selling some popcorn at home.
Yeah, take this home with you, and they give you theater prices.
That's one of the best things about the theater to me is like going and like eating the popcorn and just like sitting back. And I saw a licorice pizza. That was the last one I saw last week. I thought that was really good in the theater. The thing is, the reality is some films you're at home and you're like, do I want to go, in the other room and do laundry or do something else? But if you're in a theater, then you're there.
You have to be there. Yeah, you're there for a purpose.
Yeah, and there are very few films that I've, walked out on just because they're so bad. But, sometimes like Licorice Pizza was a really odd film because it started off so good and then it got a little weird because they brought in all these stars, and you're thinking, well, how did they make it into the film, So it's kind of I don't know. That was an interesting film, but anyway.
Yeah,
we could do that. We could do a best theater.
That'd be fun.
Best theater podcast.
I have 5 off the top of my head right now. We could definitely do that. Theater experiences.
All right, man. Well, I think.
But that was our top 4K our top home theater experiences. Sorry, they're all 4K, but our top home theater experiences of 2021. Let us know because I'll talk about this on Tuesday because I do my Tuesday podcast. Okay. So hopefully the listeners will let me know where we were wrong, who was right. You have No Time to Die at number 1. I got Foundation.
Yeah.
Let the listeners decide.
I made kind of a mistake. I think what I did was I probably should have taken out Inglourious Bastards and then not had a tie, in which case my list would be slightly different. So maybe,
and that's way down at number 6.
Yeah, you can put those end notes in your video feed.
Yep. So that will do it, Jeff. This was awesome. We got to do it again sooner. I didn't even realize we've been talking all along. We go back and forth, but I didn't even realize you haven't been back since July.
I feel slighted because we never finished.
I know. Well, I was, it's so funny. There's something wrong with Lord of the Rings. I had a plan at the beginning of 2021 and you know how things go with plans. And I went to, so you and I were going to do this for New Year's Eve, right? Well, I decided to flip flop and I'm like, all right, when our schedules didn't work, I'm like, I'll do the first half of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I'll do that. Then I'd be able to say to you, hey, we're doing the next one. You and I can get in and do the second half of wrap up Lord of the Rings and all that, right? Well, of course, I have all my notes on it, and it's fantastic. I can't wait to talk about it. And I told the listeners when I recorded my podcast on Friday, my 2-minute, sorry, I have COVID podcast. That's what happened. I couldn't record. And I was stuck.
Yeah.
So, but it's one thing after another. It's like you get busy, these things happen. And it's like, but you're definitely coming back to do that probably sometime in the next couple months, probably before March. We'll do the Lord of the Rings one.
All right.
That we've been trying to do.
All right.
Since last year. So, see? Look at that. It's amazing how time flies, huh?
Yeah, this is a long one. Well, thank you again for having me on. I appreciate it. And thanks again for the help on the top 10 list.
Thanks for having me. Been a great year. Thanks for all the fun. And we'll do a lot more again. You can find more about Jeff in the show notes at HD Report on Twitter, hd-report.com. You can check out that article that we did for top 10 4K discs of 2021, plus all the other great stuff you got. There's always sales. That's what I like about you guys too, is you guys are always pointing like, this one's dropping in price, $80 off of this, $80, all the different sets and stuff. It's awesome. Awesome site to follow. So, thanks, Jeff. We'll do this again soon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody. This is it. Have a great week, everybody. Now, I'll talk to you on Tuesday. Now, go push play. Hey, Fred. This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.